dear, good to be here. So today, first up, we're going to be reviewing the artist. Who wants to take it away? This is not the shortest one, so someone else can take it.
Do you want to announce who people are? Hayley is here. You are here, Adam. I am Tyler, and we are off meta. Jazz hands.
We're hats.
We're hat.
I did see that comment, Tyler, earlier, and I like it, and I think we should run with it.
Yeah, the hat band. It's a good gimmick. So the artist, once per game, during the day, privately asks the storyteller any yes or no question.
Could we have started off with a stronger character on this list? Yes, we could have done. In my opinion, the artist is not great. I don't like the artist. I think once per game ability, asking the storyteller a yes or no question, I mean, can be super useful, can be super powerful. Maybe I need to get out of the mindset of the every night rolls and how awesome some of them were and bring it back down. Artist is great for a Vortox check. Am I the artist? No. Great. We're in a Vortox game where I'm sat next to a poisoner ability such as the Nodo Dashi. But otherwise, I'm not a big fan of it.
It just doesn't feel like it has enough power behind it. Like a once per game that is ask one yes or no question just feels really limiting for the good team.
So the artist also has, though, I've seen some, and it's up to the storyteller whether or not they want to accept these types of questions. They can always say, I don't understand the context of that question and I won't answer it. Some of them have weird nested clauses that say, in this instance, and then it becomes like it becomes a Vortox check that also gives this information that does this thing. They can be incredibly potent. They can single-handedly solve the game. So I think that has to be given some credit, right? They can.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone, but that is brilliant. I don't think I've ever seen anyone say, if I am the artist and this say yes. I've never seen anyone do that.
It was very popular in text games for a while, and it was going around a lot. The nested question thing. I think someone asked me in a game we were running on stream one time if they could ask this very complicated nested question. I was like, I'm too dumb for that. So tell me some names, I'll tell you yes or no. That's what I can give you. But I don't know. I mean, we have more to come, and like I said, we're comparing it to the other once per game rolls. I think it is one of the most game breaking of the bunch of once per game rolls. I think it's an S tier roll.
You think it's S tier?
Wow.
Compared to the other once per game rolls, I mean,
man, are you drunk? Are you what? S tier for this piece of shit? No, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I can absolutely see times where it is S tier. I can also see a lot of times where it's fucking F tier, right? And we don't even have an F tier.
I've seen some bad artist questions, right? And that's always in the hands of the person who's asking the question.
It's a strictly better seamstress, according to Kohav. Kohav's already arguing in chat saying it's definitely not trash or something like that.
I'm glad we have people very very passionate about the roles in here. But I will say, I think Kohav has a vested interest. So she did the Cult of the Clocktower episode on the artist, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong.
That was their mistake for doing that episode. Could you not have got a good character?
What are we shooting me for? I'm double promoting. I'm promoting the Kohav brand, the purple brand, and I'm also promoting Cult of the Clocktower. I think I'm doing the Lord's work over here.
I'm also promoting purple today. I managed to figure out the light before we went live.
And then you stick your head in front of it. Good job. So how are we rating these days? A question on in chat.
So to go over the criteria before, we have looked at how effective it is as a role, how fun it is to play, how effective it can be as a bluff. That's usually what we've been doing as our criteria. If I missed any, and how well it does in the basis of its in its script and in customs. Right, so those are separate.
So I mean, I guess when we look at all those sorts of things, it is probably B to A tier. And if you wanted S, I won't fight it being A. But
well, you can't spell artist without A, so we can start. You also can't spell it without S. But either way,
you can't spell it without D either in some languages. But
you said that so confidently, like you do know that for certain.
I do know that for certain. Yes, I speak multiple languages. All right, everyone, be quiet. It's my moment. Chef, you start knowing how many pairs of evil players there are.
Well, I'm going to keep the bit going. Can't spell chef without C. I don't think it's C tier. But it is a little limited, especially in setups, but it could be in its base script. You've got different roles that confound it. like the recluse. People sometimes have misunderstood the recluse's pardon, and it's an outsider. It's not meant to be a chef ping operator.
Chef is so script dependent, you can all take that back. Chef is useful information. If it's not junk or poisoned, it is always useful information. It's always
On
useful
any
information.
script. I feel like it's one of those that fits on any script, pretty much.
Yeah.
Chef in a Legion game is a lot of fun. Almost every Legion game has a Vortox on the script, so there you go.
Chef's great in TB. Chef's great in custom scripts. Chef's information's great. Is it fun to necessarily be the chef? No, but not many once per game abilities are fun to be, which is why I think it is a clear A to S tier.
No way.
So what's wrong with the chef? Tell me what's wrong with the chef.
So the chef in its base, so it is useful information, but when you start factoring in the fun quotient and what it does in TB, let's take a look at its base script. The other once per game rolls, starting information rolls, they tell you clearly, because what TB is meant to do is to help people that don't know each other interact with each other. Hey, here's a bunch of strangers. We're playing this game. Weird. Well, I've got a roll that tells me one of these two people is this thing. So that is a prompt to say, go talk to these people. It's only experienced players that turn that into, I'm going to sit here and act weird and not talk to you, the people that I have pings on, right? That's a meta that develops over time. The chef is the only one of those once per game rolls that doesn't do that. So that's a knock against that in terms of it being fun. The people that play it report that they don't have fun. So I think that's a pretty good metric. I do think it is, good information. I couldn't reasonably put it on par with the artist. I just don't think that that's reasonable. Because as the artist, I could say, if I asked you if a sober chef would have gotten a 1, would that be true? I could ask that as an artist. I could emulate any role I wanted to, and we put that in A tier. And you want to put someone who's just confined to getting this information in the same tier. That's just a little weird to me.
It could emulate any role once, but that doesn't. But even
the
so,
chef only gets it once too.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean you would have gotten and asked that question about the chef's info, Ty. You're like, just because it could do that, how many fucking times have you seen someone do that? And if you're saying the artist could do that, then you must be saying it must be an important and great information to have, and therefore it's a higher fucking class character anyway. Then.
No, I'm saying a role that can do that plus a bunch of other things that is a Swiss Army knife of capability is more impactful than a role that is limited in what it could get. If I wanted to know as an artist, if I wanted to know the chef information, I could go ask about that. A chef can't go and be like, I would also like to know investigator information, please.
I mean, I hear what you're saying about the artist potentially could do that. I don't normally see it being used in any useful way, really. I don't normally see a game come down to artist info.
We're going to have to get a little bit picky, though, with these roles because we're comparing them to themselves as you go down this list.
So Jack brings up a good point. You could ask, would the chef have got a 1 and get a no, but that doesn't differentiate between a 0 and a 2. Thank you, Jack. Boom, Jack.
Yeah, I don't know that the chef would be S tier, Adam. That does feel a bit much. But I could advocate for an A tier, I think. And really, the things that people are saying in chat are true. That, if you pay an attention to who's chatting to who and where they're sat in the circle, it could be really useful information. Especially if you haven't just come out with your chef information on day one. So that people aren't knowing to look for that, to make sure that they're not talking to their evil neighbor constantly,
I just think when we compare, in live games, people talk to their neighbors all the time. So the chef information in a live game is it's not as useful as it would be in an online, in an internet game.
I don't. Do you really find that people talk to their neighbors all the time?
In person?
Sometimes I avoid my neighbors.
In person, everybody talks to their neighbor. I mean, when we were playing at cons, people talk to their neighbors constantly.
I mean, I need to stop comparing it to new players.
I'm not talking about new players.
Well, most of the players at cons are new players, right?
Well, not when we went to Origins. In any case, I could not if we're gonna, I don't want to belabor this point. I could not reasonably put this in A. I could not reasonably put this in S. When we start comparing this to the other roles that we're about to go over, I just don't think there's any possible way. So that's my point of view.
Hayley, and you're saying
somewhere between B and A, and I disagree that it's not fun to play. I think it is fun to play. I like being the chef or any of those top 4 Trouble Brewing. Because it allows you to sort of use the more social aspect of the game to form reads off of people. Because you can just sort of sit back and chill out with the one bit of information that you got at the beginning of the game?
I think, Hayley, it comes down to, I mean, I'm saying A, Tyler's saying B, you're saying somewhere between B and A. Make a choice.
Are you saying C even, Tyler?
Yes, I am saying C even. When we start comparing it to the other roles that we're going to get into, I just don't think it. I don't think it hangs tough with those.
Well, then I guess that puts it to B.
All right, Clockmaker. You start knowing how many steps from the demon to what? How is this worded?
Yay!
As I'm saying it out loud, it doesn't make sense. You start knowing how many steps from the demon to its nearest minion. How many steps the demon is to its nearest minion. There's a word missing from this version you've shared with us, Adam.
I believe it's from the public script.
Did you edit this just to
just to mess with
confound
me?
Hayley?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so you start knowing how many steps from the demon. How many steps from the demon? Oh my gosh, this doesn't make any sense.
You start knowing how many steps from the demon it is to its nearest minion.
But it doesn't say it is. You're adding those words in.
I can fucking ad lib. Watch me.
I got you. Strong improv skills. Yes,
Tyler.
and Clockmaker. It is, especially in the context of its script, I think it's a little bit more effective than the chef would be on the same script because of the presence of the vigor mortis on that particular script, and it gives interesting information. So I think it's objectively a little bit more interesting than the chef, though I don't love it. I don't love the Clockmaker, but it is, it is one of those roles that is pretty impactful and iconically S&V. Maybe feels that way.
Clockmaker can nerf any demon. Change my mind. Honestly, the Clockmaker is one of the few townsfolk that just nerfs, not minions, nerfs demons. The Clockmaker destroys all fucking demons. Leave the Vigor Mordi alone. It destroys everything. Like if you can find something out, it can destroy it.
So what would you say?
This is an actual S tier. This is not an A to S or a B to A. This is a straight up S tier of a minion to play. It's so useful to have in play. It's so useful to bluff as having in play. It is so useful for everyone. So you're right. So Knifin says so many scripts that have a Clockmaker and it is in play, people regret putting it in because it gets solved quickly. Yes, so you're right. If the Clockmaker is on the script, on a script where it cannot be getting false information for any reason, then yes, it is going to probably overpower that script. But that just shows how great its information is, in my opinion. I don't know. I think it's an S tier. I wouldn't want to put it down to A, but I could appreciate why someone else would be arguing lower than S.
Well, if it breaks the game in some way, though, why would that be S tier if it ruins the fun for some people? If it makes a game less fun?
I don't know about less fun, unless you consider solving the game quickly to be less fun, unless you consider that it creates the agency. I think it's one of those townsfolk that evil doesn't want to bluff as, because people will often kill the Clockmaker early. But its power, its usefulness too good is so strong that I can't justify in my head putting it anything but S.
I will maintain my position that the artist could just ask for Clockmaker info, essentially.
How do you ask that with a yes/no?
A sober Clockmaker would have gotten a 2.
No. Well, how's that help you now get a 1, 2, 0, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it would have got?
Because I can confirm that off the Clockmaker.
So you're saying if the Clockmaker's also in play, the artist can help back up the Clockmaker's usefulness. So you're saying instantly, automatically, the artist is less important than the Clockmaker.
I don't know how confirming information is important or less important, but okay.
I didn't realize you were so strong on the art.
I just can't fathom how a role that could have as many options is somehow less powerful in your mind than an ability that is kind of locked in. All right, so we're on the Clockmaker though. I gotta get off this. Yeah, I think I can't disagree with anything anybody's saying. I think it's especially powerful with the Vigor Mortis. I don't know that it breaks all demons. I don't find that to be true, but you can see relationships between people. We've had Clockmakers in games with not the positioning of minion to demon, and it didn't illuminate anything. So it doesn't break every game. I think it's a fun puzzle to solve, and it's obviously very potent information. I'm not going to fight with people about it being S tier.
I don't know. I don't really know if this would be S or A. I think it does definitely, to me, say that artist is not an S tier.
The size of the game also matters when you have a certain number of players. It would be interesting to see a Clockmaker in like our 9-player games because it might not be as relevant as you want.
I think the smaller the number, the more relevant it becomes. I think when you have a chance for a bigger number, it becomes less useful personally. But because I think people are less likely to trust a Clockmaker 5 than they are to trust a Clockmaker 2 or 3, right? I think in those bigger games where it has more opportunity to look like its information is trash.
I mean, there's so many strong opinions about when the Clockmaker is even better that I think it would be hard to argue with chat here.
Hardest question is the Clockmaker an S tier role? Whew. Don't ask that one with Tyler, GM. That's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing.
I just agreed to this S tier. I just think the artist is better than you're giving it credit for whatever. And it's almost always some weird quirk in your brain that'll take me years to uncover because I'll have to get some explanation of a story of a thing that happened in a subway. Why are you playing Clocktower on the subway? Don't ask.
We should play Clocktower on the subway one time.
This hobo peed on my shoe, and I was like, why was it a hobo? They follow trains, not subway cars. Hey, don't get pedantic. And then it's like, well, it's not their fault, the artist's fault that you got your shoe peed on. Anyway, let's move along.
One day I'll try and unpack that story, Tyler.
It was your story. I just concocted it.
Okay, grandmother. You start knowing a good player and their character. If the demon kills them, you die too. I assume of a broken heart.
Well, I don't think I'll get a ton of support on this, and I think there are ways to confound it. I think the grandmother is powerful. It can't be considered as powerful as the artist or the Clockmaker, because while we think of confirming roles as being very potent, and they are in some cases, especially if there's so much confirmation that it gets overwhelming for the evil teams, a lot of times confirmation doesn't help you solve the game because what you're trying to find out is who the demon and get them killed is. So I would put the grandmother at an A tier because the confirmation is so strong. In BMR, it's confirmable that you're the grandmother, but in other scripts, it could be even more confirmable if there aren't other ways for multiple people to die. So if there's a multi-death day and then you're like, hey, yeah, and so now you are confirmed as well. So there's a lot of potency in all of that.
I'm good with A. I love the grandmother. Hey, but Hayley, do you want to talk?
No, I love it as well. Like, literally before the stream, I was saying I like a grandma, which is why I asked to read for it. So
yeah, I think grandma. The one thing, other thing to just add to the grandma is it's great for new players as well. Helps them get bedded in. They can now make another player in the game trust them by saying, "I know your role. You're this." I think the only maybe one major downside to it is with newer storytellers. If it gets poison drunk for some reason, might show them the wrong character instead and let them know that they were poison drunk on night one. Might be a downside. I mean, unless it's a sailor doing it type thing, could be a negative for them. Like if they now know they're the leech host or poisoned, etc. on that night one, then know the other information on that night can be poisoned and therefore getting false. That's the only that's the only trip up that I potentially see with it. But otherwise, I mean, I love the grandmother. I think I love being the grandmother. I love bluffing as the grandmother, as good or evil. I'm good with A.
yeah, I like being a grandchild as well.
Mm.
It's just something nice about it. Like, so Knifing is saying, grandmother's A tier because you die with your grandchild. It is a beautiful story. It is. I think it is a beautiful story. I completely agree.
Nobody wants to pass before their children, let alone their grandchildren. Yeah, I think it's great for new players, but I also think it gets to be more fun, like a lot of roles, the more you play, because then what's funny is watching people just go like, I know this is the info that I got. I just don't buy it. There's just something about Adam. I keep asking him, are you sure you're not this? And he goes, no, I'm not. I'm not that thing at all. And I'm like, mother pus bucket.
Have you been playing too many games with Emily there now, Ty, where it's like, no, even I know Adam's good, but he can't be good. Like,
Can't be good.
That's my life.
I say that almost every game. Next up, Adam, this is a shorty. The
Sweet.
Investigator.
Investigator, you start let me do this. Investigator. Okay. You start knowing that one of two players is a specific minion. I didn't read from it. It's particular. Fuck, I was close. That'll do though. Take it, cut, move on.
Your gaze there was very intense.
Thank you. That's what I was going for. Try and beat that intenseness.
Hayley, what do you think about the Investigator? You're a big TV proponent.
Yes, I am a big proponent of TV. I genuinely think it is a perfect game. It is so well refined that I'm not sure that there are any bad characters on it, truly. Like, I know that is maybe a controversial opinion. There are definitely people that don't like butlers, for example. Um, yeah, I mean, the Investigator is like the chef for me in that it's really nice to just get your info right up at the beginning of the game and then figure out how that fits in to the rest of it, how people are playing socially. It gives you a reason to talk to other players, which, like Tyler said earlier, is kind of the whole point of TV, of getting people comfortable into these social deduction type games. So yeah, I like it. I don't know where I'd put it. I feel like I want to put everything in like A tiers for these once per games, because I guess I have a real preference for them, because I don't know, I really like the once per game element. It feels like a lot of power in a short little space of time. It's like a little explosion of energy, I guess. I like it.
That's the downside to these roles then, I guess. Every townsfolk basically is going in S, A, or B. But if it makes you feel any better, the next one coming up, I would argue, is a C tier.
So I would say about the Investigator that it doesn't solve the part of the game that you want to solve the most. It tells you something very valuable. It tells you that once. If you have that, but then you don't get any other information throughout the game, you will not have solved the game. You will not win as the good team. You may have killed a Baron, or if you got really super giving storyteller, maybe you got yourself a poisoner, but then they probably paired them up with the other person's claiming saint, and so now both of them are claiming saint, so you don't execute anybody. I think it's obviously it's valuable information, but I just don't think it helps you solve the game that you'd want to. So I would put it in a B tier when comparing it to these other once per game type of roles.
I think that's fair, but I think sometimes people get too caught up in who should we kill in Clocktower, and I get it, that's how you win. But sometimes it's really useful to know who not to kill, and you don't need to kill a minion. If you have a pair as an investigator, it tells you that you probably don't need to kill those two people. You don't need to focus on the two of them, which certainly in a smaller game, that eliminates potentially 3 people, so in a third of the players, in confirming yourself and 2 others as not the demon.
If your storyteller understands that that's the meta that you have developed, they could just show you this player or this player is the Baron, it's the demon and the Baron. If that's the meta that the group develops, right? So I mean, even that can get. I'm comparing it to the roles. I mean, I know. I don't think we can put them all in an S and A tier, because then you get into it. I mean, like, I don't understand the point of that. It's not even ranking anymore. You're just like, everybody's great. I think everybody in chat is great, and that's why I don't rank them. I wouldn't waste my time because they're all so great.
So what you're saying is we should have ranked these ones, really, then, Ty?
I think we can rank them, because I think compared to the other, I think once again the artist could most definitely say, is one of Hayley or Adam the Scarlet Woman, and they get a yes or a no. See how they could emulate that role?
But then they would have to know the Scarlet Woman's in play for a start with to guess that, or else them getting a 1 in 4 chance of a 1 in 12 player game. They're getting like a 1 in 48 chance of getting all that information right to pick between the two players. But no, but in all seriousness, Investigator. I think the Investigator, I think a lot of people play the Investigator suboptimally, is what I see on games. I think if you go back and watch some of the early TPR games where I was the Investigator in 2 games, I think you'll see how to play the Investigator perfectly. It's where you don't come out with the Investigator information. You use it to track and watch who's talking to who, and follow those people and see what they're doing. See who they trust, see who they're talking to, see what they're doing. And that's how I think you use the Investigator. I don't go, this person's a minion, let's just kill them day 1, please, because one of these 2 people is a minion, so let's kill them. That's not optimal. People now they're an investigator. People don't know not to trust that people. People now know that person, there's someone out there that has solid information that one of those people is evil, or that person that is my minion is evil. I should no longer stick up for them. So that's why I think that there is a better way out there, and that's why I do think the Investigator is an undervalued, underutilized to actually resolve the game. Townsfolk. I'm happy for it to be in B, because just the fact that I've said that, as much as I think it's an A tier, As much as I think it's an A tier, I think that because people play it that way most of the time, I think it's and haven't realized that the bigger, or maybe not have. I'm not being unfair to people that want to play it that way. Go ahead and play it that way. You're getting rid of an evil player. You're giving them one vote for the rest of the game. I'm not being disrespectful towards that. I think if we're trying to make it to that S tier and A tier, I think there is a more optimal way to play it, and that also makes it negative, I guess. But I think it's a B tier townsfolk just because there is an optimal way to play it. Most people don't play it that way, and therefore aren't getting the most out of character. So it probably is B tier for that reason.
I think you're being a little ungenerous to people that play the Investigator that way. If I was shown as Investigator that one of two players was I get based on the minion. I wouldn't waste my time, very much time killing a Baron, for instance, right? I could just kind of maybe filter out the things that are coming out of their mouth. But if the storyteller came up to me and say one of these two players is the poisoner, well, you want them out of the game. You don't want them polluting the information.
Very fair.
And that's better than killing I guess we'll just random nom a townsfolk today. You know what I mean? So I think there are some benefits to acting on that information. But once again, and getting and eliminating that poisoner in that play state, very important. Somebody did also, I think it was Jack, and I hate to give Jack credit now because he's been coming at me so hard throughout this entire stream. Yeah, in a multiplayer, in a multi-minion game, the Investigator has proportionally less impact.
Well, we can't listen to Jack because the YouTube comments all say Jack's wrong.
They
so
say
therefore,
all of them.
I need to go look at these comments now.
Yeah, one of them is probably a recluse.
One comment, and that person is saying that the butler should have been S tier. So I'm not really sure what Tyler's trying to say we should be doing here.
I know, and that's the other thing. Investigator, in its native script with the recluse, is a little rough.
Yeah, so I think it could go as high as A tier. I can definitely see times where it's C tier. So I think B's fair for it. Hayley, any issues with that?
No, none at all.
All right. So then the last one coming up then is the Juggler.
Juggler. On your first day, publicly guess up to 5 players' characters. That night, you learn how many you got correct.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Tyler.
that's the sub. You're welcome. That's the Juggler's language.
And this is the one that you think is C tier, Adam.
I think it's trash. I think in no world is a Juggler ever been fucking useful in any game I've ever played. Hey, what? So wait, could you remind me of your Juggler information? Because I think with that we're going to solve the game. Never has anyone said that in any game of Blood in the Clocktower. No one has ever said this. So it's straight up for me. It's C tier. So as Chad has already pointed out, it was something I was going to say as well. Is that even if for some reason I'm worried about a Juggler information, shit, they've just guessed the entire evil team and are about to get a fucking 3 or a 2 or a 4 or whatever, I just kill them tonight. Even if that might be the case, right? Like, it doesn't matter. And we'll hope that something else out there makes it look like it wasn't because of the juggle. Who looks, and because I say that, whoever looks at, wait, what was your juggle information on day one? Why might they have killed you because of that juggle that you've just guessed? Like, no one does that. No one plays around the juggle. No one looks at the juggle. No one gives a shit about the juggler's information. Like, it's just out there. So juggle away at your heart's content. And you've got to listen to, like, most of the time I just juggle this person, this person, this person, this person, this person is a Vortox. Like, that's it. That's it. That's all that matters to me. Like, or something stupid like that. It doesn't matter.
What else do we think? I don't think we've given our opinion.
Yeah, we haven't given any opinions yet.
I've just said everything that needs to be said about the Juggler. Someone needs to say something good about the Juggler because I can't.
How about I do my half-hearted defense? That'll be the name of this segment. Half-hearted defense by Tyler. I don't love the Juggler. I do think it is interesting in the way that it helps people learn how to get claims, right? Which is, if you're playing the game, and obviously people don't start with S&V very often, but if you're getting into the game and you're trying to figure out how to get claims from people, I think the Gambler has a similar effect, though the Gambler is a better role, in my opinion. I know that Adam hates the Gambler too. Basically, any role where you have to tell somebody your role, Adam hates. I'm getting that theme, right? I'm not telling you nothing. I think it is fun and interesting in that way. It is not intuitive in the way that it's played. So my first game of S&V, fun story, I was the Juggler. I read this and I go, how am I going to say any of this without getting killed? And it took somebody who had played S&V several times going, oh, we're all just going to say it. Everybody juggle, everybody juggle. And I'm glad that they weren't the demon, because that was like, I'd have been the one guy juggling and then been dead, right? So that's not intuitive by the role. Anyway, the information's usefulness will vary. I guess if you juggled that someone was the demon and only that, or you could learn one of 3 people was the pit hag. If you said these 3, I juggle that I'm the juggler, and these 3 people are the pit hag, then you know one of them's a pit hag if you get a 2, or you're in a Vortox world or whatever. What? Or you're poisoned. But so it's just it only works in connection with other roles, which can be fun for people. So its fun quotient may be a little higher than you're giving it credit for. It's a good way to announce what you think about the game. That's why the gossip is fun. I don't know. I'm not gonna fight. This is my half-hearted defense. So that's what I got.
Good so far. I
Right.
still wouldn't change my vote, but you're doing good so far.
Well, I'm not changing my vote either, so it's not that great.
All right, no one's arguing with us on the juggler. Huh?
I'm really
Nobody is arguing in
Yeah.
favor of the juggler.
We've got it keeps it out of D tier is probably about the the strongest argument.
The fact that we don't have a D tier is what keeps it out of D tier, right?
Yeah, the fact that we don't have a Z tier is what keeps that a Z tier. Like seriously.
Let's do this since we got a couple minutes, and this is the last roll we'd be doing for today anyway. Would you, if you were to rate Juggler against all the other roles that we've talked about so far?
If you could rate it against every character that's ever been created
in the townsfolk section. Okay.
Fucking, there is never any useful. There is never any use for a juggler.
Jack saying Butler over Juggler.
And I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
We did play at an S&V game at a convention where the Juggler had really good information, but he was Serenovus locked for most of the game. Poor Andrew. So he never could get out his vital juggle.
I mean, he could. It just would have been an execution to get the information out. Stop being afraid of being executed by the Serenovus. It's really interesting that none of us are sticking up for the juggler. I think that says a lot for it. I am waiting now for that game where someone is going to do something fantastic as the juggler and blow my mind and change my opinion of it, like it has happened with other characters in the game. It has happened before, and hopefully it'll happen with the juggler. I just don't see it.
Well, with the juggler, you don't have to juggle 5 players, right? You don't have to juggle 5 names. But we did have a juggler 5. People are referencing that. I think it was Art who had a sober 5 on a juggler. I don't know how that turned the game. I haven't seen that, so I don't know if that turned the game in his favor. That would confirm a lot of people if people believed Art in that case. And in S&V, that can be pretty powerful. So if you got strong information roles that are contradicting each other, having that juggler sort that out and say, well, this person is this. We know that to be true.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I think someone early in the chat before my chat broke said something along the lines of, in a game where people actually tell the truth, which, what? The juggler could be super useful. And I guess in that worldview, you could get a juggler that gets a juggler 5, right?
This is a contention that I have, and I know this plays against the style that Adam plays, so this is a separate conversation, and we may not have time for the full unveiling of this one. I think Town often does itself a lot of disservice with the double bluffs, the double backs, I was doing a play. I know it's more fun, and that's probably why people do it on stream a lot, or it makes people's brains spark a little bit more than if they were just like, hey, I'm this thing. That's what I am, you know? Yes, there are negatives for the evil team knowing what certain roles are in play and who's what, but then you get situations that we see a lot of times where it's like, well, we ended up executing the Raven Keeper, we ended up executing these roles, and it was because they lied about their role throughout the game, and we don't know what's what. We don't have any information to go on. So I think Town lies to itself a little more than maybe it should. If that's the meta currently, then the juggler is pretty much useless.
And somebody's made a point in chat, I can't remember who it was now, but saying that juggle later in the game would probably be more powerful.
They're referencing that the Philo, they're saying the Philo juggler is good, the cannibal juggler is good. That makes the Philo good and the cannibal good. It doesn't make the juggler...
It doesn't make the juggler good. That's true. And we do seem to have one person advocating for the juggler in chat, which is Boom Jamsy.
That's Jams, yeah.
That's Jams? Jams is arguing for the juggler?
Jams. Wow, Jams. Okay.
Wow, Jams. I'm disappointed in you, Jams.
Jams is saying that the juggler is powerful for finding Serenovus players and drunks and getting Town to share claims. So maybe the juggler would, if you see a juggler on a script, maybe it should encourage people to tell the truth to Town more. That
influence can make S&V a much more solvable game for the townsfolk, especially if you're comparing it to the other roles that are in this list that we've talked about. I just can't put the juggler in their sphere. I can't put them on par with them.
So I always hear, don't play. I played with the London guys once or twice, and I always hear like they play a very straight deduction game, not social game, a deduction game.
Mhm.
And I wonder if they would have a very different opinion about the juggler because of that. And I wonder if I should go play on them to see how they play the juggler. Next time London's playing SMV, I want to join to see how they do the juggles. I want to see it be useful. I want to be wrong about it, right? Let's be clear. I don't want any character or any character in this game to be C, D, E, F, trash tier. I don't want it to be low. I would think everything has. I would like to see it have a chance, but right now I've never seen the juggler be useful, and I'd like to see it.
So you don't. Let me ask you this, because you could juggle. You could say, well, I mean, multi-demon. That's the other thing. SMV is a multi-demon script, which limits the juggler. We did. I will say this in defense of the juggler. Now that I think about it, when we put it on that initial, the initial script that we're using to test all the demons, right? So there was guaranteed one demon per script. It wasn't a multi-demon script. That juggler could go around and say, I juggle that that Adam through this person or Adam through here is the imp, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty potent. It doesn't work as well on S&V because S&V is a multi-demon script. So if they go, I juggle that Adam is the, is the Nodashi. I juggle that Adam is the, the not Vortox because that would be pointless. But I juggle that Adam is these three demons, right? And then I juggle that Hayley is these two demons or whatever. So it's a little bit more limiting on its base script. But on a single demon script, it actually could be pretty effective because you could just juggle that these people are the demon. You get a 0 back. Okay, they're not the demon.
So what you're saying is a philo juggler or a cannibal juggler could be really useful in late game to find the demon once you know who the demon is, even on a multi-demon script too. Then
yes. So I already made that case when people were talking about the philo juggler and the cannibal juggler. Like, well, that makes the philo and the cannibal good. Doesn't make the juggler good. It is a good use of the ability, but that would be an application of the juggler on a certain kind of script. If it's a one demon script, I think a juggler could get some good mileage out of that.
All right. So if anyone wants to, for the World Cup, submit a solo demon juggler script to make the juggler useful, here is your chance. Here is your chance to make the juggler shine in Blood on the Clocktower.
Yeah,
I would always rather have an artist than a juggler too. I can agree to that, Admiral.
I've got a 5 if I'd have guessed these 5 people with these roles.
See, it can emulate that. I've seen artist questions like that. If I juggled this person as this,
You've seen
like,
the artist waste their ability on a juggle. Oh my god.
I did. I didn't say it was a good use of their ability, but that's all I'm doing. I should just keep a notebook with all the artist questions I've heard. In any case, chat, we appreciate you watching the first part of Sometimes Once is Enough, where we rank the once per game abilities. We'll be back